You wake up one day and realize the job, the house, the life you built, none of it feels like yours anymore. And you can't remember when you stopped being yourself. Tonight, I'm walking you through 20 philosophy ideas that explain why you feel this way, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it before it's too late. If this hits close to home, a subscribe is really appreciated. Now let's begin. 1. Hell is other people. Hell isn't fire and brimstone. Hell is sitting at a family dinner when everyone looks at you like you failed. Jean-Paul Sartre was right. Other people are the mirror that turns you into the version of yourself you hate most. In his play, No Exit, Sartre trapped 3 characters in a room forever. No torture devices, no demons, just each other's gaze. That was the real punishment. Hell is other people doesn't mean people are evil. It means we're imprisoned by how they see us, unable to escape, because we desperately need their validation. The more we crave being seen, the more we lose the freedom to define ourselves. Sartre wrote, "The gaze of others turns us into objects. You stop being a living subject and become a thing to be judged, evaluated, defined. Each glance paints another layer over your true self until you can't recognize who you are anymore." Think about that high-stakes meeting last month. You prepared, meticulously rehearsed every word. But the whole time, you felt like an actor performing on stage. Your boss's eyes, your colleagues' silent judgments, they were defining who you are every second. You drove home exhausted, and your wife asked the question, "What did they think of you?" That's when it hit you. You'd lived that entire day for the answer to that question, not for yourself. Social media amplifies this nightmare 1,000 times over. Every post is a carefully staged performance. Every photo a calculated act. You live through likes, through comments, through reactions from people you barely know. The painful irony. The more connections you accumulate, the lonelier you feel inside your performance. 500 friends online, but nobody knows you're drowning. The digital age has created a new level of hell. We're not just trapped in one room with 3 people. We're trapped in an infinite arena with millions watching, judging, defining us through screens. You curate your life like a museum exhibit, and slowly you become the exhibit, forgetting there was ever a person underneath. True freedom begins when you stop performing for the invisible audience. Next time, before doing anything, pause and ask yourself, what do I actually want? Instead of, what do they want me to be? 2. The shadow. The man who explodes at his lazy co-worker is usually running from the laziness festering inside himself. Carl Jung discovered a brutal truth. What you hate in others is what you violently rejected in yourself. Jung called it the shadow, the darkness dwelling in your unconscious. It's the repressed parts you've shoved down, deep, raw ambition, bitter envy, volcanic anger, forbidden desires. These aren't inherently evil. They're just forbidden banned since childhood, when the world taught you what a good person looks like. Your parents said, "Don't be selfish," so you buried your needs. Society commanded, "Men don't cry," so you locked away your pain. But buried things don't die. They grow stronger in the dark. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The shadow doesn't evaporate, it erupts. Irrational fury at minor annoyances. Self-sabotaging decisions that destroy what you've built. Words that explode from your mouth, and you wonder where they came from. and its favorite weapon, projection, hurling what you hate in yourself onto everyone around you. Watch it in action. The executive screaming at employees about lack of discipline. He hasn't touched a gym in 6 months. You criticize your wife for reckless spending. You're hiding receipts for a $3,000 golf club set. You rage at your teenage son for wasting time on his phone. You've been scrolling Instagram through every family dinner. See the pattern, their mirrors reflecting your shadow back at you. But here's what nobody tells you. The shadow contains more than darkness. It holds buried gold, legitimate ambition, creative fire, healthy passion. Society trained men to be strong and stoic, so you buried vulnerability and tenderness. Then one day, it detonates as violence addiction or complete emotional shutdown. That midlife crisis tearing through your life, that's 40 years of shadow pounding on the door, demanding to be acknowledged. You don't defeat the shadow by fighting it. You integrate it by shaking hands with it. Next time rage floods through, you stop and ask, what part of me is this person reflecting? 3. Ironic process theory. 3 a.m. Your brain whispers urgently. Don't think about tomorrow's presentation. So you lie there obsessing about it until dawn breaks. That's not weak willpower or lack of discipline. That's exactly how your brain is designed to work against you. Daniel Wegner discovered this cruel joke and named it ironic process theory. When you try to suppress a thought, your brain divides into 2 competing systems. System 1 actively pushes the thought away. System 2 constantly monitors to verify it's still gone. Here's the trap system. 2 must keep checking for the thought, which means continuously bringing it back into consciousness. You've created a mental prison guard who reminds you every 30 seconds what you're not supposed to think about. Wegner proved this with his legendary white bear experiment. He told participants one simple instruction. Don't think about a white bear. The result, the harder they tried to suppress it, the more relentlessly it invaded their thoughts. Wegner concluded, the harder they tried, the more often the thought appeared. Suppression doesn't eliminate, it amplifies. You're essentially feeding the very beast you're trying to starve. You know this torture intimately. Insomnia. I must fall asleep right now. Your body becomes more alert. Dieting. Don't even think about pizza. Suddenly pizza consumes your every waking thought. After your divorce? Just forget about her. She haunts every moment for months. Work stress. Stop worrying about the deadline. The anxiety multiplies. This isn't personal failure. It's a fundamental design flaw in human consciousness. Here's the devastating part for men, especially you were raised on real men. Don't show fear. Don't cry. Don't appear weak. So you spent decades suppressing normal human emotions. Then they erupt as heart attacks at 55, alcoholism to numb the pressure explosive rage that destroys relationships. The boomer man up philosophy created walking time bombs. The way out: stop fighting your thoughts like enemies. Let them drift through like clouds across an open sky. Mindfulness isn't about suppression, it's about watching without wrestling, observing without judgment. 4. The mirror stage. The man in your LinkedIn profile photo isn't you. He's a carefully crafted fiction, the version you calculated everyone wants to see. Jacques Lacan discovered this unsettling truth in the 1930s. The self you believe is you is just an image you've constructed a mask mistaken for a face. Lacan described what he called the mirror stage. Picture an infant between 6 and 18 months encountering a mirror for the first time. The baby sees a complete, unified, coordinated image staring back. But here's the reality inside that infants experience is pure chaos. Fragmented sensations, uncontrolled movements, no coherent sense of wholeness. Yet the mirror lies beautifully. From that moment, the I is born not from internal truth, but from external reflection. You become the image, not the reality behind it. Lacan wrote, "The I is based on an external image, not inner reality. Your identity is constructed like a building, not discovered like a treasure. It's fiction masquerading as fact." From that first mirror onward, you live through what others see, not what you truly are, deep beneath the performance. Think about your dating profile last year. You selected that confident alpha photo, angled just right smile, carefully calibrated. But inside, you felt exhausted, uncertain, wondering if you'd ever figure yourself out. At your college reunion, you wore the expensive suit, told polished success stories, while desperately hiding the fear of being exposed as inadequate. Your son asked last month, "Dad, are you actually happy?" You couldn't answer. You've been performing for so long, you've forgotten what happiness feels like without an audience. The digital age weaponizes this problem brutally. You maintain 5 or 10 different mirrors. Now the competent professional, the devoted family man, the fitness enthusiast, the online persona. Each reflection shows someone different. By nightfall, you lie in bed, wondering which one, if any, is actually you. The mirrors have multiplied, and you're lost among the reflections. The person staring back from every mirror is the longest-running performance of your entire life. Try this. Spend 10 minutes daily sitting in complete silence. No phone, no TV, no role to play. Just you, whoever that is underneath everything. 5. Mimetic desire. You don't want that car. You want the life of the person who owns it. René Girard uncovered this uncomfortable truth. 90% of what you desire doesn't originate from within you. It comes from unconsciously copying the desires of others around you. Girard called it mimetic desire, desire learned through imitation. He described a triangle of longing. The subject, you, the object, the thing itself, and the model, the person whose desire you're imitating. You don't actually crave the object for its inherent value. You crave the status, the validation, the identity that comes with possessing what your model possesses. Girard wrote, "Human beings are never in competition for things, they are in competition because they imitate each other's desires. Advertising agencies understand this perfectly. They don't sell you products, they sell you the carefully curated lifestyle of attractive people who supposedly own those products. Every commercial is a lesson in who to imitate. Rivalry isn't about scarcity. It's about copying the same wants until conflict becomes inevitable. Watch it unfold in your own life. Your neighbor pulls into his driveway with a Tesla. Suddenly, you want a Tesla too, even though your current car runs perfectly. Your college friend gets promoted to VP. Now your own job feels inadequate, though yesterday it felt satisfying. Someone posts photos from Bali on Instagram. You're immediately planning a trip you never wanted before. Your daughter applies to Harvard because the neighbor's daughter got accepted there. You're living someone else's script. Here's what cuts deepest for men. Especially by your 40s and 50s, you find yourself trapped in an exhausting race you never chose. Bigger house than colleagues. Younger wife than your divorced friend. More impressive career than your brother. You're sprinting toward finish lines drawn by other people. Then you hit 60. Finally, pause to breathe and ask the devastating question: what did I actually want from my life? That midlife crisis everyone jokes about. It's the moment you realize you've been living someone else's dream. Before wanting anything, interrogate that desire. Who taught me to want this? Is this actually mine? 6. Akrasia. Weakness of will. You know you should sleep early, but it's 1 a.m. and you're still scrolling TikTok. Why akrasia, knowing what's right but doing what's wrong, isn't stupidity. It's human nature exposed. Aristotle identified this 23 centuries ago. Socrates believed wrongdoing came from ignorance. If you truly knew what was good, you'd do it. Aristotle disagreed profoundly. He saw akrasia as the eternal war between reason and desire, between what you know and what you want in the moment. Aristotle wrote, "Akrasia exists in the tension between knowing what's right and failing to act on it." He distinguished between the weak-willed person who acts against their judgment and feels regret afterward, and the self-indulgent person who acts and feels no shame. The gap between intention and action is where most of us live our entire lives. Watch yourself. You know you need to exercise and eat healthy, yet you devour the burger and skip the gym for 3 months straight. You know you should save money for retirement, then drop $2,000 on the latest tech gadget you'll use twice. You know your marriage needs real conversation, but you choose the TV remote to avoid discomfort. You know the drinking is becoming a problem, but every evening you pour another glass to unwind. This isn't weakness of character. It's the design flaw in being human. But here's what makes it worse. Now we live in the age of instant gratification. Everything is one click away food, entertainment, shopping distraction. Your brain evolved for short-term survival, not long-term planning. It's wired to grab immediate rewards and ignore future consequences. And the algorithms. They're specifically engineered to exploit your akrasia. Just one more video becomes 3 hours gone forever. The answer isn't willpower. Willpower is a muscle that fatigues. The answer is systems. Don't try to resist temptation, eliminate it. Delete the time-wasting apps from your phone. Put your gym clothes next to your bed so morning resistance collapses. Make the right choice. The easy choice and the wrong choice require effort. Willpower is overrated. Environment design is everything. 7. The paradox of hedonism. The man who spends his entire life chasing happiness usually dies alone, asking, "Why was I never happy?" Here's the cruel irony: the harder you pursue pleasure, the more it evades you. Philosophers call this the paradox of hedonism. When you directly pursue pleasure as your primary goal, you paradoxically fail to achieve it. Happiness is a byproduct of meaningful activity, not a target you can hunt down. Henry Sidgwick observed, "Excessive focus on pleasure defeats its own aim." The more you fixate on feeling good, the more you amplify every discomfort. John Stuart Mill captured it perfectly. Those only are happy who have their minds fixed on some object other than their own happiness. When you pursue something meaningful, mastering a craft, serving others, building something lasting, happiness sneaks in through the back door. Chase it directly and it runs away. Think about retirement. You spent 40 years dreaming of freedom. No alarm clocks, no obligations, pure leisure. Then 6 months after your retirement party, you're sitting in front of the TV at 10 a.m., feeling hollow and directionless, wondering why this doesn't feel like the paradise you imagined. All those weekends you meticulously planned for fun, expensive restaurant entertainment activities, and you come home Sunday night feeling exhausted and strangely empty. Remember that relationship that failed because you expected the other person to make you happy? The moment you demand happiness from something, you've already poisoned it with expectation. You scroll Amazon buying things to relieve stress. The packages arrive. You tear them open, feel nothing, and the emptiness returns within hours. Modern culture makes this worse. The self-care and treat-yourself mantras have created an addiction to pleasure-seeking. You're told to optimize joy, maximize experiences, curate happiness. Result: anxiety skyrockets because you never feel happy enough. Social media shows everyone else's curated bliss, so you compare your internal chaos to their external performance and feel miserable. Happiness doesn't arrive when you chase it. It appears when you forget you're looking. Stop asking, "Will this make me happy?" Start asking, "Is this meaningful?" 8. Idle talk. You talk all day, but say nothing real. That's not communication. That's noise masquerading as connection. Martin Heidegger warned about this in the 1920s. Most conversation is idle talk, thoughtless repetition of others' opinions, empty of genuine understanding. Heidegger called it Gerede chatter. It's when you talk about something without actually understanding it, repeating what you heard someone else say as if it's your own insight. Idle talk creates the illusion of connection while actually severing you from truth and from authentic relationships. Heidegger insisted, language can either reveal or obscure truth. Idle talk is when noise replaces reflection, when you fill silence with words rather than sitting with the discomfort of not knowing. It leads to what he called fallenness, losing your authentic self in the crowd's endless chatter. Recognize it. At work meetings, everyone tosses around buzzwords: synergy, leverage. Circle back to this. Move the needle, and nobody knows what they actually mean. At dinner parties, you discuss politics based on headlines you scrolled past on Facebook but never read. With your kids, it's the same hollow ritual. How was school? Good. Then both of you retreat to your phones. With your wife, you talk about bills and schedules, but never about the fear keeping you awake at night or the distance growing between you. The digital age has weaponized idle talk. Text and email culture has made communication transactional, quick, surface-level, efficient. You consume podcasts and YouTube videos, then repeat their talking points like a trained parrot without ever forming your own thoughts. Even "How are you?" has become a meaningless ritual where "Fine you" is the only acceptable response regardless of truth. Before speaking, pause and ask yourself, do I actually believe this, or am I echoing something I heard? Once a week, have one real conversation. No phone, no small talk, no performance. Just honesty. 9. The ego tunnel. You think you're seeing the world, but you're only watching a movie your brain is projecting. Thomas Metzinger proved something unsettling. The you believe exists isn't real, it's a simulation. Metzinger describes what he calls the ego tunnel. Your consciousness is like a tunnel created by your brain. Inside the tunnel, everything feels vivid, immediate, undeniably real. But outside, there's just raw, meaningless data your brain is frantically processing and packaging into a coherent story. The self you experience isn't an entity, it's a construction, a useful fiction your brain maintains. Metzinger writes, "No such thing as a self exists in the world. Nobody ever had or was a self. Your brain generates the experience of I to help you navigate reality efficiently. It's like wearing a VR headset, so convincing you forget it's there, but remove it and you'd see the code underneath. Watch how this plays out. Your memory is unreliable. You remember events that never happened because your brain edited them to fit a coherent narrative about who you are. In arguments with your wife, you each remember completely different versions of the same conversation, and both of you are absolutely certain you're right. When you face an identity crisis asking, "Who am I really?" the disturbing answer is there's no core self to discover, only stories you've been telling yourself. When you retired last year and lost your job title, you felt like you'd lost yourself. Because you had. Your ego tunnel collapsed when the structure supporting it vanished. Social media creates a second ego tunnel, your online avatar, your carefully curated digital life. Some people now spend more time in their fake tunnel than their real one. And Alzheimer's. That's watching someone's ego tunnel disintegrate in real time. When the tunnel collapses, the self disappears with it. You're not the ego tunnel. You're the awareness observing it. Spend 10 minutes daily in meditation, step outside the tunnel and watch it operate. 10. The problem of other minds. How do you know your wife actually loves you and isn't just performing an Oscar-worthy act? Philosophy can't answer that. You cannot prove anyone else is conscious. This is the problem of other minds. You know with certainty that you're conscious, you experience thoughts, feelings, pain, joy. But everyone else, you only see their behavior, never their inner experience. For all you know, they could be philosophical zombies, beings that act perfectly conscious, but are hollow inside, running on autopilot with nobody home. Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am," proving his own existence. But he couldn't extend that certainty to anyone else. Neuroscience can map brain activity and correlate it with reported experiences, but that's not the same as accessing someone else's subjective reality. You see the machine working, but you can't prove there's anyone experiencing it from the inside. Here's where it cuts deep. After 20 years of marriage, you think you understand your wife. Then one day she says, "You've never really understood me," and you realize the chasm between you might be unbridgeable. Your teenage son seemed fine until the day you got the call that he'd attempted suicide, and you had no idea he was suffering. Your co-worker smiled every morning for 5 years, then quit abruptly, and only then you learned they'd hated the job the entire time. Sometimes you don't even understand why you do what you do. The digital age makes this worse. When communication happens through text and email reading, emotional truth becomes nearly impossible. Men were trained to hide emotions, which makes reading other men especially difficult. This is why loneliness has become an epidemic. You can be surrounded by people and have no real connection to any of them. You can't prove other minds exist, but you can listen as if they do. In your next conversation, assume nothing. Ask everything. 11. Inverted spectrum. Is the red you see the same red I see? Nobody can answer that question. Nobody ever will. This is the inverted spectrum problem introduced by John Locke in 1690. It reveals something unsettling about subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia. The color you perceive when you look at something red might be completely different from what I perceive, yet we've both learned to call it red. We pass the behavioral test perfectly, pointing to the same objects using the same words, while potentially experiencing entirely different realities inside our heads. Locke's thought experiment asks, what if your color experience has been inverted since birth? What you call red looks like my green and vice versa. But you'd never know. You learned to associate the word red with your subjective experience, whatever it happens to be. There's no way to step outside your own consciousness and compare. This isn't just philosophical speculation anymore. Neuroscience confirms that every brain processes sensory information differently. The neural pathways translating light wavelengths into color experience vary from person to person. What reaches your conscious awareness after all that processing might be radically different from mine. Think about the last argument you had with your wife about paint colors for the living room. She insisted the sample was clearly beige. You saw gray. Both of you were looking at the same physical object reflecting the same wavelengths. But your subjective experiences were genuinely different. Not because one of you was wrong, but because your brains construct color differently. Or describing a meal to someone, you say the wine had notes of cherry and oak. They taste something completely different, but nod politely. Here's what cuts deeper: your son sees the world in a way you'll never access. Every conversation you've ever had, you assumed you understood each other. But his red isn't your red. His pain isn't your pain. His joy registers in a way you can't imagine. The empathy gap isn't just emotional, it's built into the structure of consciousness itself. Modern technology amplifies this problem. Virtual reality, augmented reality, AI-generated images were creating new sensory experiences while knowing that each person experiences them uniquely. We're building shared worlds on fundamentally private experiences. Nobody sees the world the way you do. That's not poetic, it's neurological fact. And that's why patience matters more than you thought. 12. Appearance versus reality. The desk you're touching right now isn't solid. It's 99.9% empty space between atoms. Welcome to the gap between appearance and reality. Plato saw this 24 centuries ago with his allegory of the cave. Prisoners chained since childhood see only shadows on a wall, mistaking them for reality. When freed and shown actual objects, they're confused, even angry. Most of us, Plato argued, live our entire lives watching shadows. Descartes pushed further. Maybe everything you see, touch, and believe is an elaborate illusion. How would you know Kant delivered the devastating conclusion? We can never access the world as it truly is, only how it appears to us. Your senses don't give you direct access to reality. They give you a filtered, interpreted, constructed version. You're seeing through a lens you can't remove. Watch this play out in your life. That woman's dating profile showed adventure and authenticity. The reality was 3 cats and unresolved trauma. Your neighbors seemed perfect. Successful careers, happy kids, regular dinner parties. Then the divorce exploded across the neighborhood, and everyone whispered, "I had no idea." You thought your career was stable. You'd been there 15 years, good reviews, steady raises. Then the company announced layoffs of 500 people, and your desk was empty by Friday. Appearance and reality diverge constantly, and you're usually betting on appearance. But modern physics makes this worse. Quantum mechanics reveals that particles don't have definite properties until observed. They exist in superposition, multiple states simultaneously until measurement forces them into one. Reality at the quantum level is literally observer-dependent. The universe doesn't have a fixed state waiting to be discovered. It's shaped by observation itself. This isn't just about external reality. Look at photos of yourself from 10 years ago. That person staring back, are they you? You remember being them, but memory reconstructs constantly. Your brain edits the past to maintain a coherent narrative about who you are. The story you tell yourself about your life might be as fictional as any novel. You've been assuming the world you see is the world that exists. That assumption has no foundation. Don't trust everything you see, including yourself. 13. The uncanny. Why does a robot that looks 99% human creep you out more than a robot that looks 50% human? That's the uncanny valley, and it reveals something dark about how we recognize humanity. Sigmund Freud identified the uncanny, das Unheimliche, the unhomely, as the experience of something familiar yet strange, triggering deep psychological unease. Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori expanded this with his uncanny valley theory. As robots become more human-like, our affinity increases until they reach almost human. Then affinity plummets into revulsion. When something looks nearly human, but not quite, every tiny deviation becomes horrifying. Freud called it the return of the repressed, buried fears and anxieties suddenly awakened. The almost human triggers primitive uncertainty. Is this alive or dead? Human or machine safe or threat? Your brain evolved to make that distinction instantly. When it can't, ancient alarm systems activate. You've felt this. Deep fake videos that look perfectly real, but something feels wrong. Your unconscious registers the uncanniness before your conscious mind catches up. AI voice clones of deceased loved ones that sound exactly right, yet fundamentally wrong. You look at old photos of yourself and ask, was that really me? The face is familiar, the person is a stranger. Déjà vu hits and everything feels familiar, yet impossible, like your brain is glitching between realities. The digital age is weaponizing the uncanny. AI companions, sex robots. Virtual humans, the more realistic they become, the more disturbing. Not because they're failing to be human, but because they're succeeding almost perfectly. They challenge the boundary that defines what human means. If something can perfectly simulate love, intelligence, consciousness is the simulation different from the real thing. And if you can't tell, does it matter? Here's what the uncanny reveals. We're more afraid of things that are almost like us than things completely different. The complete alien doesn't threaten our identity, but the near human does. It suggests the line between human and not human is thinner and more fragile than we want to believe. The uncanny reminds you what you fear most isn't the totally foreign. It's the familiar with something subtly, terribly wrong. 14. Bundle theory of the self you're searching for. Your true self. Sorry, it doesn't exist. David Hume figured this out in 1739. There is no core self to discover. You're not a unified entity. You're a bundle. Hume's bundle theory claims there's no permanent, unchanging I, at the center of your experience. Instead, you're a constantly shifting collection of perceptions, sensations, thoughts, and feelings loosely tied together. Like a movie, individual frames create the illusion of continuity, but there's no actual movie beneath them. Just separate images your brain stitches into a narrative. Hume wrote, "I never can catch myself without a perception." He looked inward, trying to find the self, and found only specific thoughts and feelings. No underlying observer, no core identity, no essential you, just the bundle of perceptions happening right now. Think about who you were at 20. That person had different beliefs, different goals, different fears. Now 40, completely transformed. At 60, you'll barely recognize your 40-year-old self. Which one is the real you? None of them. All of them. There's no authentic core, just different configurations of the bundle across time. You take personality tests and get different results every few years. You have an identity crisis thinking, "I'm not myself anymore," but you were never a fixed self to begin with. That's not a crisis, that's reality. The self you think you lost never existed in the first place. Modern neuroscience supports Hume completely. Brain imaging shows no central CEO controlling everything. Instead, you're a network of parallel systems loosely coordinated, constantly shifting. The sense of unified self is an emergent property, a useful fiction your brain maintains for efficiency. Pull back the curtain, and there's no wizard, just electrical signals and chemical reactions, creating the illusion of you. Digital life fragments this further. You have your work identity, your family identity, your online persona. Which is real? The answer, none and all. You're not playing different roles. You're different bundles in different contexts. There's no self to find, only a self to create right now in this moment. 15. Personal identity. Paradox. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago? Every cell in your body has been replaced, so who are you? This is the ship of Theseus applied to human beings. The ancient Greeks asked, if you replace every plank of a ship over time, is it still the same ship? Replace the question ship with person, and you're facing the personal identity paradox. What makes you, your body, your memories, your personality? All of them change constantly. Derek Parfit concluded, identity is an illusion. What we call identity is just psychological continuity, a chain of overlapping experiences connecting past and present. There's no metaphysical core making you the same person across time. Just enough similarity between yesterday you and today you to maintain the story. Watch where this cuts. An amnesia patient wakes up with no memories. Are they still the same person? The body is identical, but the psychological continuity is severed. Brain injury changes someone's personality completely, kind to cruel, cautious to reckless. Their family says that's not who they were. They're right. Personal identity is more fragile than you want to believe. Your divorce wasn't just a relationship ending. You told her, "I'm not the man you fell in love with anymore." She agreed. Were you lying? No, you were acknowledging that the person she married no longer exists. The body remained, but the psychological continuity broke. You became someone else. Alzheimer's destroys this most visibly. Your father loses memories progressively. First recent events, then decades of his life finally not recognizing you. At what point did he stop being himself? The body persists while the identity dissolves like morning fog. Digital technology fragments this further. You have multiple identities across platforms: professional LinkedIn, personal Facebook, anonymous Reddit. Different avatars, different personalities, different values. Which one is the real you? The question assumes there's a real one to find. You're not the person you were, and that's precisely why you can change. 16. The illusion of free will. What are you having for dinner tonight? Your brain decided 7 seconds before you thought about it. Free will might be the most convincing illusion you've ever experienced. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet discovered something disturbing. He measured brain activity while people made simple decisions like pressing a button. The results: brain activity indicating the decision occurred several seconds before people reported consciously choosing. Your brain commits before your conscious mind knows anything about it. Philosopher Sam Harris took this further. You can do what you decide, but you cannot decide what you will decide. Think about that. You can't choose your next thought before it appears. You can't control what you'll want tomorrow. The sense of authorship, the feeling that I am steering this ship, might be a retrospective story your brain tells to make sense of decisions already made. Watch this unfold in your life. You think you chose your wife through careful deliberation, logic, compatibility, shared values. But neuroscience reveals it was chemistry, pheromones, unconscious attraction patterns formed in childhood. Your career path feels like strategic choices, but trace it back and you'll find circumstances, chance encounters, opportunities you didn't create. That addiction. You can't break. Why can't I just stop? Because it was never a simple choice in the first place. Your brain chemistry, genetic predisposition, environmental triggers their driving, while you're sitting in the passenger seat thinking you're steering. This raises uncomfortable questions about the justice system. If people don't have free will, should we punish criminals or rehabilitate them? If choices are determined by prior causes, genes, trauma, brain chemistry, where does moral responsibility live? Some philosophers argue we should abandon blame entirely and focus on prevention and treatment. But here's the paradox. Even if free will is an illusion, you must live as if it isn't. Knowing you're determined doesn't make you less responsible for your actions. It makes you more curious about what's actually driving them. Without the illusion of free will, you stop asking, "Why did I choose this?" and start asking, "What caused this choice?" That shift changes everything. Not having free will doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding yourself more deeply. 17. Radical freedom and responsibility. You are absolutely free. That's not a gift, it's a curse. Jean-Paul Sartre saw human freedom not as liberation, but as condemnation. We're condemned to be free because there's no escape from choosing, no valid excuse for any action, no authority to hide behind. Sartre's existentialism is unforgiving. Every moment presents choices, and even refusing to choose is a choice. You can't blame fate, God, society, or circumstances. You are radically free, and with that freedom comes total responsibility for who you become. Sartre wrote, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." No predetermined essence, no cosmic purpose handed down, no instruction manual for being human. You exist first thrown into the world without asking, then you define yourself through actions. Every choice shapes not just your life, but your declaration of how humans should live. Look at where you hide from this freedom. You say you're stuck in a soul-crushing job. I have to provide for my family. That's a choice. You're choosing financial security over fulfillment, and that's valid. But stop pretending you have no agency. Your marriage has been dead for years. I'm staying for the kids. That's a choice too. You abandoned your dreams. It's too late now. Choice. You witnessed injustice and said nothing. What could I do? Choice. Every moment you choose silence, comfort, safety, you're choosing. Own it. Sartre called the refusal to acknowledge freedom bad faith, lying to yourself about your own agency. It's easier to say, I had no choice, than admit you chose the comfortable prison over the uncertain freedom. But here's what makes this unbearable. Now modern life presents infinite choices. Career paths, relationship options, lifestyle possibilities. The menu never ends. This radical freedom becomes paralyzing. Too many choices, no clear answers, and the weight of responsibility for every decision crushing down. Freedom stops feeling like possibility and starts feeling like burden. Sartre knew this. Freedom is anguish because you can't escape creating yourself with every breath. The courage required isn't just to choose, it's to accept that you're choosing constantly and that nobody else can do it for you. You are free, which means you're 100% responsible. No exceptions. 18. Moral luck. Two men drive home drunk. One arrives safely. The other hits a pedestrian who dies. Both made the same choice. Who's morally worse? If you answered the one who killed someone, you've just acknowledged moral luck. The uncomfortable truth that morality isn't just about your choices, but about circumstances beyond your control. Thomas Nagel identified this problem in 1979, and it undermines everything we think we know about moral responsibility. Nagel wrote, "Moral judgment depends on factors outside our control. The drunk driver who made it home gets a DUI, maybe loses his license, feels shame. The drunk driver who killed someone goes to prison, lives with unbearable guilt, is labeled a murderer. Same decision, same recklessness, different outcomes due entirely to luck. Watch this pattern everywhere. Two entrepreneurs have the same idea, work equally hard. One happens to meet an investor at the right cocktail party, becomes a millionaire. The other never gets that lucky break, files bankruptcy. We praise one as visionary, dismiss the other as foolish. Same actions, different luck. Parenting reveals this cruelly. You raise two kids with the same values, same discipline, same love. One thrives, one spirals into addiction. How much credit or blame do you actually deserve? Less than you think. Genetics, peer influence, random events, so much is beyond your control. Health shows it starkly. Two men smoke 2 packs a day for 40 years. One gets lung cancer at 55. One lives to 90. Same choice, different consequences. We judge them differently because outcomes feel like they reveal something about the person. They don't. They reveal luck. The military draft exposed moral luck at its worst. Your birthday determines whether you go to war, whether you kill, whether you become someone who can live with what they've done. Morality by lottery. Here's what successful people don't want to hear. Your success is more luck than skill. You were born with certain genes, into certain circumstances, with certain opportunities. Hard work matters, but luck matters more. The privilege blind spot is thinking you earned everything through merit alone. Judge people less. Acknowledge luck more. You're one bad break from being the person you're judging. 19. Determinism. Every choice you've ever made was determined since the Big Bang. Prove me wrong. You can't. In 1814, Pierre-Simon Laplace imagined an intellect vast enough to know the position and momentum of every particle in the universe. This Laplace's demon could calculate the entire future with perfect accuracy. Past, present, future, all just dominoes falling in an unbreakable chain of cause and effect. Laplace wrote, "Nothing would be uncertain, and the future would be present before its eyes." If every event is caused by prior events, and those by earlier events traced back to the universe's beginning, then free will is an illusion. You're not choosing your unfolding according to laws you didn't write. Think about why you married her. You'll say it was love compatibility choice. But trace the causes: your genes, determining what traits you find attractive, your childhood shaping attachment patterns, circumstances bringing you to the same city, that random party where you met. Remove any single factor and you marry someone else or nobody. You didn't choose those factors. They chose you. Your career path. A sequence of events you didn't control where you were born. Your parents' income, schools, available economic conditions when you graduated, who happened to have an opening. Your personality genes plus environment equals you, nothing you selected. Here's the deterministic gut punch. If you could rewind time to any decision and replay it with everything identical. Same brain state, same influences, same physics, you'd make the exact same choice every time. If I could go back, I'd do it differently. No, you wouldn't. You'd do it identically because the causes would be identical. Quantum mechanics challenges this. Particles exhibit genuine randomness at the quantum level. But does quantum uncertainty at microscopic scales create free will at the human level? Most physicists say, no. Randomness isn't freedom, it's just unpredictable determinism. So, what? Whether you're determined or not, you still have to live. The experience of choosing remains. The feeling of regret persists. Knowing you're determined doesn't eliminate suffering or joy. You're still responsible for actions even if they were inevitable. Live as if you're free, because determined or not, that's all you can do. 20. The myth of Sisyphus. Push the boulder up the mountain. Watch it roll back down. Repeat forever. That's not mythology, that's your life. Albert Camus saw Sisyphus as the perfect metaphor for human existence, condemned by the gods to pointless, repetitive labor for eternity. No progress, no achievement, no escape. Just the same rock, the same hill forever. And Camus concluded, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. How? Because Sisyphus knows the truth. Life is absurd. There's no cosmic meaning, no grand purpose, no reward waiting. The universe doesn't care about your boulder or anyone's. But in that recognition, Sisyphus finds freedom. He's not deceiving himself with false hope. He's pushing the rock because he chooses to push the rock, not because it serves some higher meaning. Your life is that boulder. Same tasks every day, emails, meetings, problems that resurface. You fix one thing, another breaks. You work 40 years building a career, then retire and die. You go to the gym, get in shape, stop going, lose the shape, start again. Infinite loop. Relationships require constant effort. Fights, reconciliation. More fights, more effort, until death ends it. The modern world amplifies this absurdity viciously. Hustle culture tells you to optimize, maximize, be productive. You chase meaning in meaningless work. Burnout seeking purpose in systems designed to extract value, not provide fulfillment. You're not just pushing a boulder. You're told to push it faster, more efficiently, with better technique while documenting it on LinkedIn. The absurdity isn't a bug, it's the feature. Life has no inherent meaning. Your boulder will roll back down. You'll die and be forgotten. Every achievement crumbles. Every relationship ends. The question isn't how to escape this, you can't. The question is what you do knowing it. Camus says, rebel. Push the rock anyway, not because it matters cosmically, but because it matters to you right now. The struggle itself is enough. The absurdity doesn't diminish life, it clarifies it. Without false purpose imposed from above, you're free to create meaning moment by moment. Life is meaningless. Laugh and push the boulder anyway.